I always say the more options for players, the better. More costumes, customization, and accessibility options are always welcome, but there's now outrage from Western localizers over River City Girl Zero because the company behind the game announced that they were including two separate translation options for players. I have one article to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month or supporting the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So I wanted to read this Bounding into Comics article. It says Western localizers upset over River City Girl Zero, offering option for more literal translation, claim their work is being disrespected. And it's not simply Western localizers going on social media saying, hey, I don't really think that this is a good idea. I don't think people understand why this isn't a good idea. No. They go on to attack people, of course. Not surprising. It says, in what may be the most ironic outrage in recent times, a number of Western video game localizers have taken issue with River City Girl Zero's inclusion of a more literal English translation alongside one which takes more creative liberties, claiming that such an option disrespects their work. I think that this is a perfectly fine idea. I think that providing players with as many options as possible is always good, and it is always positive, but of course, there are people that are mad over this. A remastered port of the fourth game in the long-running beat-em-up series developed by WayForward, River City Girl Zero follows the story of Kunio and Ricky, two high school students with a penchant for brawling, who find themselves framed for a hit-and-run accident they did not commit. I really like River City Girls. I'm a big fan of the franchise, and I've had my eye on River City Girl Zero for quite a while. I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about it, but it's something that I've had my eye on. But it says it's the first time that this title has been released outside of Japan in any form, so it's really, really cool if you like beat-em-ups or if you like River City Girls in general. It says, though, additionally, as confirmed by WayForward on the day of the game's release, River City Girl Zero also features two separate English translations, a new translation which has the characters speak a bit more like they did in RCG1, and a literal one that provides as direct a translation as possible. WayForward was very excited to announce this. They were very happy to be able to tell players, hey, now there's two translation options in the game. They were proud of themselves, but of course, there are people out there who are furious over this. Upon this revelation, a number of Western localizers, whose industry is currently known for providing translations which overwrite the author's original intent to inject personal opinions in politics, proceeded to cry foul, claiming that their work was being disrespected. And there's quite a few Western localizers who are furious over this situation. Taking to his personal Twitter in the wake of WayForward's announcement, Tales of Arise lead translator Tom James wrote to his followers, "The thing I want to emphasize is practical realities aside, I don't approach game localization like I'm composing the one true translation that can exist. What you get when you buy my game is my take on that material, but not the take, and that gives me the confidence to be creative." In practice, many of my localizations exist in isolation, but not all. I don't talk about it often, but I get that with Amagami, the game, my LP, isn't the only translations folks can experience, and that's okay. Neither takes away from the ability for the other to exist. So if, say, Namco were to email me 10 years from now and be like, Tom, you and your team's previous localization of Tales of Arise bricks the PlayStation 6, we have to do it all from scratch, I wouldn't be broken up about it because my old work would still exist. So he says that when he's localizing, it's his take on the material, and yes, to a certain extent, that is what happens with localization and translation. But at the same time, we have seen Western localizers take matters into their own hands, and they take the source material, but they reword it in specific ways to mean slightly different things. We have seen them, unfortunately, inject their personal opinions and their personal political standpoints into games now. It's something that I've talked about many times on the channel, but going to the next set of tweets, this is from someone else. It says, adding her thoughts to the conversation, a former translator, Jennifer O'Donnell, asserted, people in the localization industry are rightfully upset about this decision because it feeds into the myths and misconceptions about video game translation. Directly translating words can create mistranslations and inaccuracies because even if the words seem the same, the intended meaning or the source text and or the meaning or interpretation of the translation can vary from the source. With literal translations, meaning and characterization is lost. They also go on to say, awkward, which often come from being literal or too direct, translations undermine game writing too. If I wrote a beautiful, amazing text for a game only to have it butchered in another language with direct, awkward wording, I'd be upset. But we don't know exactly why they decided to provide people with multiple translations here, and that's probably a big part of the story. Maybe in the original translation it wasn't as faithful as they wanted, and you can't blame the developers for wanting another shot at a translation. They're smaller indie companies, so it's not like their options were endless, and if they wanted to get another team to localize it, maybe it wasn't in their budget. The job of a translator, like I always say, is to make the most faithful recreation of the original material as they can, not to modify it and add content and narratives, and unfortunately, we seem to have a translation industry that is full of people that are doing that. And of course, a lot of these people are not attacking the situation because they're simply upset over the translations. They're upset over specific people that are defending the fact that this game has multiple translations. Kevin Frayne said, I want to see a list of all these games supposedly infected by the translator's personal politics epidemic. For as much as I hear alt-right gamers drop this accusation, I've literally never seen it in person, which I realize probably means it's BS like most alt-right nonsense. But he also decided to say, at the end of the day, all I really have to say is this. Localization is not a dirty word, and it's not a conspiracy to ruin your Japanese media experience, and the alt-right acts in bad faith. Of course, he instantly starts with the politics. Of course, it can't just be some people agree with this situation, some people disagree with the situation. No, he's turning it into, oh, it's the alt-right that are doing this. The alt-right are terrible people. As for Way Forward, in the light of criticism levied against them, the developer announced that they would rename the translations from New and Literal to RCG and Original. We hear you, wrote Way Forward. Literal was a poor word choice and not intended as the way it was taken. So in the next River City Girl Zero update and all remaining versions, the two English translations will be labeled RCG and Original. These terms better reflect our intent for localization. With all the criticism Way Forward has taken over the past few days, maybe I can get behind the fact that literal wasn't the right term here, but they're changing it. They're saying literal was a poor word choice and we're gonna do better going forward. But these localizers make themselves look terrible. Let's be honest. A lot of people do not trust localizers at this point because of all the creative liberties they've taken in games that they're translating. And it's an unfortunate situation, but they're making themselves look worse, going on social media, throwing hissy fits, attacking game companies, saying, oh, this isn't right, you shouldn't be doing this, you should backtrack on what you have decided to do with your game. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.